goes to Muscatine County.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m. Monday, December 18, 2023. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to approve claims dated December 18, 2023 in the amount of $206,542.93.
I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kurt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is item with County Engineer Brian Horowski. Morning, Brian.
Good morning.
First is design update.
Yes, I wanted to speak to you guys today about what we're working on in the office. We have two major projects we're trying to get kind of over the finish line. The first is Trolley Ave Bridge out there by the Kent Research Farm. The design is all complete. We have final plans ready to go. Right now, we're pretty much, all we're really waiting on is right away. We've made contact with the landowner, and we're working with them. It is a corporation, so there's lots of levels to it of approvals, and it can be a bit of a process, but they've been very good to work with so far. We hope to have that yet this week, so we can keep moving forward on that. That's in the March letting of 2024. Our other major project right now is the Moscow Road overlay that's going from F70 north to Highway 6. That the design's completed. It's kind of in the same process right now as the Trolley Ave Bridge. Design's complete. We have the final design, final plans done. We're working very hard. Dennis and Sean are working very hard on acquiring the right of way. We don't need much acreage wise, but there's quite a few parcels that are affected. So they're dealing with a lot of landowners. I think there's like 11 parcels that are affected with that. So we hope to have that as soon as we can as well. And that is in the March 2024 letting as well. So I have the title sheets. So hopefully I can get some signatures on those at the end of the meeting today. That way that's done. If for some reason we can't get the right of way in time, the letting date will get pushed back a month. So, and then we're also working on getting out our pavement marking plans, get that out to contractors to bid on. So, but yeah, we have two major projects that we're working pretty hard on right now. So, just wanted to give you guys an update on that.
Okay,
So.
very good. Thank you. All right, next is items with Planning and Zoning Administrator Eric Furness. Morning, Eric.
Morning.
The first is discussion and possible action authorizing the chair to sign a general accounting expenditure funds request with the Iowa Economic Development Authority in the amount of $750 for grant administration expenses under the 2019 CDBG-DR grant.
This is just a typical GEX request that allows us to draw down $750 from the CDBG grant that we were awarded for the disaster recovery. As you recall, this paid for the local match dollars for the FEMA money that purchased the house on Sweetland Road that was purchased and demolished after the 2019 flooding and rainfall events. That CDBG grant included administrative costs for $750 for each property that was acquired. We have had Kayla submit a claim to pay by state because they're the grant administrator for the CDBG. This allows us to pull down those CDBG funds and reimburse us for what we paid by state for administrating. It's part of the closeout of the FEMA disaster recovery project and the CDBG grant as well. So
Okay.
pretty simple. But
I'll move the approval.
All right. Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Anything else?
I think a couple of you might comment on this, I would assume in your correspondence. I did receive an email from a citizen who was inquiring as to how to approach the Board of Adjustment or Zoning Commission on a proposed moratorium on wind energy projects. I will respond to them that it would actually, since we have an adopted ordinance, that any moratorium proposal, I believe, and Jim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but should come directly to the Board of Supervisors. We're not talking about amending an existing ordinance, but imposing a moratorium. So I'll respond accordingly, that if it's really the only email request of this nature that I've gotten. I did also receive a request for some information from, I believe it was the Durant newspaper. It was in regards to one of those open houses that they had recently again in the West Liberty area for that project, with just questions about our ordinance and our approach on that type of thing. So I believe you all should have got the feedback that I forwarded to you on the ordinance review from the Infrastructure for Policy and Development, that outfit that looked at our wind ordinance. So there was a few little things. I was overall quite pleased with, really there was a lack of anything glaring that, that they didn't point out anything major that they're recommending, just some things that we can take a look at. So give me feedback if you want me to address any of those issues, or take those to the zoning commission. If you need me to resend it, I can certainly do that. They're currently looking at our solar ordinance as well, so.
Yeah, as I recall reading that, there was nothing substantive in the whole findings letter, nothing I thought was merited any kind of effort.
I talked to Scott over the weekend, just wanted to make sure that he was fine with me responding to the Durant person, that it is kind of from time to time, we'll reevaluate these ordinances as the nature of, some of these land uses and technologies change. We'll be constantly taking looks at things and having appropriate outside agencies provide us with feedback, and that's basically the response that I'll give.
Are the wind energy concerns, the activity going on in the West Liberty area, is that what's driving that?
That and possibly maybe some interest even expanding further east, maybe some feelers being put out. But as you're all aware, those things happen often before it ever comes to the county. These investing groups start reaching out in different areas to see just gauging interest.
Yeah, they could be out there for a couple of years before we ever even hear about it, if landowners don't let us know.
And what we've often found out is that this type of gauging of landowner interest is going on possibly in 3 or 4 other areas across the country. These groups are they're feeling out different areas, evaluating their investment, and it's not necessarily indicative that a project is moving forward in a particular area. So we kind of learned not to get too excited just because there's some feelers being put out.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Next is discussion and possible action to approve and authorize the chair to sign statements of election costs for the November 7th, 2023 Muscatine County, City, School elections with County Auditor Tybee Vanderlinden. Hi, Tybee.
Good morning. This is the invoicing to have the statements and election costs signed for. It divides the taxing districts between the cities, the schools, and the community college for their portion of the election costs.
Okay. I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
No
Let's see, Mike's not
My mic's not here yet, so.
here yet, so we'll bounce down here. Discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the December 11th, 2023 regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Danny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence, Jeff, you got anything?
Nothing to know.
Okay, Nathan?
No, me either.
Okay. I had nothing to note. Danny?
December 12th, Chamber of Commerce meeting. That's it.
Okay. Kurt?
I had nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Committee reports, Jeff?
No committee reports last week.
None? None?
Me neither.
I had none.
Sorry, that correspondence was none. I had for committee reports was the chamber.
Okay. Kurt?
I had none.
Okay. Next is items with the administration office. First is discussion and possible action to set a public hearing for Monday, January 15, 2024 at 9 a.m. on proposed plans, specifications, form of contract, and cost estimate for the Muscatine County Jail exterior insulated metal panel installation project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Nathan, second by Jeff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to set a public hearing for Monday, January 15th, 2024 at 9 AM on proposed plans, specifications, form of contract, and cost estimate for the Muscatine County Jail mechanical penthouse access panels and platform modification project.
I'll move the approval.
Motion by Jeff,
Second.
second by Danny. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to approve an appointment to the Muscatine County Board of Health to fill a vacant term ending December 31, 2024. I believe we have
Two candidates.
two candidates.
Well, I would make a motion that we would appoint Corey Garvin to the position.
I'll second it.
I've got a motion by Jeff, a second by Nathan to appoint Corey Garvin to the position. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank
Thanks,
Corey and
Martha.
Martha for their
Yep.
interest in the position. Appreciate it.
Let's see. Next is discussion and possible action to approve the appointment of Carol Reynolds as a Board of Supervisors representative to the Muscatine County Compensation Board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Nathan, second by Jeff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes.
We still could use one more member, so if anybody has, I have a feeler out to somebody, they would let me know this
I've
week.
talked to a couple too, but I haven't got a lot of.
If you get anybody that's interested, we could, cause that probably will be convened sometime in January, early
We-
February.
January, February.
Probably early February,
Early February.
likely, most likely.
And it's not, it's typically one
One
day,
meeting a
one
year.
meeting a year, so it's not typically terribly onerous.
Okay. Is there anything other, Nancy?
No, other than to remind you that because of the upcoming holidays, we will not meet again until January 2nd. And that's a Tuesday, but by law, we're required to have a meeting the first non-holiday business year of the year. So there'll be a lot of just basic stuff, setting dates and times for meetings and that sort of stuff.
I have a question on our appointment. Is there a requirement for county residency on our appointed member on the compensation board? Do they have to be a
don't know
county
for sure,
resident?
but I would imagine yes.
Yeah, there is, yes.
Okay,
There's typically that restriction in most appointments.
Okay. All right. Next is, receive information from county employees. Do I have any county employees that wish to address the board on any issue at this time? Seeing no one come forward. Next is receive comments from the public. Do I have anyone from the public that would like to address the board at this time? Seeing no one come forward.
I'd like to say something since Mike, we're still waiting for Mike.
Sure.
Not just to kill time, but I wanna recognize, I know all of our folks are extremely hardworking and very enterprising, and I appreciate the work they do, and especially want to take the time to recognize that at the end of the year, but specifically wanted to single out Eric, Sanders and, Felicia Topper. I've been working with them on a project to help a veteran in a particularly difficult situation, and they have just gone above and beyond to help this gentleman out. And I know it's not just them, it's their departments as well, but I'm just really impressed with the dedication. I mean, it'd be really easy, this isn't Felicia at all, but it'd be really easy with someone who's leaving in a month or two to just say, but they've done incredible work, and I know, I just, whenever I see a chance to recognize that, I want to do that, and I want to thank all of our folks as well who do such a great job and make it easy for us to have boring meetings that are over relatively quickly. Having been on boards where The meetings have gone several hours long and have been neither boring nor easy. I can tell you the value of that, and I just want to thank those guys in particular, but everybody in general, for all the work that you do to keep us from looking bad and to make sure that the county residents are getting good service for great value. Appreciate it.
Very good. So,
I guess I would suggest we recess for a little bit, and
Right.
I'll go check and see if he
okay.
emailed me or something
Well,
about,
it's 9:15, and we'll take a recess and reconvene when Mike's able to attend.
Dude, it's all right.
I just,
Morning, Mike.
I didn't have enough fillers to get to.
I tried to bloviate the fill, but
I always have like an angry public meeting before I get up here and talk. That's always the best when everybody's in a good mood, whole time, so, no.
All right.
Yeah,
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's see what we have here. We have discussion and possible action to approve a Muscatine County Master Plan Update, Design Services Proposal from Horizon Architecture with Mike Nolan. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. All right, so what you have in front of you is, so we have kind of three things that are ongoing, and we started with the admin building master plan kind of study, which we worked on throughout the last several months. We had a master plan update from the original master plan that we completed back in 2018, and then we've also been working on, plans for the engineering and zoning building. So as we kind of went through the master plan update, which would include all the facilities, including community services, the jail and the sheriff's buildings, the courthouse, this building, just kind of as a general broad stroke, we're kind of seeing a few trends and some different discussions that we wanted to consider as these other pieces were coming together. So we sat down and chatted with Nancy and Eric and kind of came up with, this is a pull the rest of these together and bring everything back together into a larger document that will include not just the maintenance for the long term coming up for the 5 years, but also overall what we call program documents, so space allocations needed by department, and have that kind of categorized as a enduring document for the county. One of the things we've run into, like when we did the building for general service maintenance, we figured out, okay, here's a number of offices, a number of personnel. So we have kind of for general service maintenance, we need this much space. So we have bits and pieces of that. With the admin building master plan, we have that. So that's another piece we're looking at doing, is let's get the rest of the county together so you have kind of a one-stop shop for future. If we're looking at different options, we know what kind of size spaces we have for each folks here. So there's a kind of a listing of here's the other spaces that we need to look at for that. The other piece of this is there is a possibility with looking at the admin master plan and doing renovations in this building. It's challenging, so we're gonna look at the possibility of potentially another facility. So that's the survey and kind of evaluation of that facility with respect to the master plan and a couple of other county functions. So that's kind of what you're seeing in the services coming together here. The other piece that we kind of ran into talking with Brian is that there's some things in flux with or I don't want to say in flux, but kind of looking at the facilities generally at the engineering campus. We felt like it would be worthwhile to spend time to do a little bit deeper dive into that, rather than just looking at one building, maybe taking a little expanded view of what, now that Brian is a year plus into the job, what does that look like from his standpoint, and help kind of come up with that and use that to inform, does it make sense where we put another potential building for zoning and engineer's office. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing, is pulling these things together as a wrap up to get one master document that we'll get back for the study, so.
Okay.
And then the other piece on here is, I know that we had just recent transition with Kurt retiring. And we offered, I think when we spoke with Jeff, he said maybe it might be worthwhile for the county to offer to conservation to let them do a facility analysis. That's something that's kind of outside of the overall county since they have their own board, but that's one of the option items in here, which we would be happy to do at a time that conservation is ready to do that, so no rush on those services.
Okay.
I think that would be, the notion there was, I'm going back to history, because when I first came on this board many years ago now, our facilities were in all kinds of disrepair. We didn't really have a home for facilities, and so things would get missed or lost as an attempt to keep budgets down. We were having to bond for minor roof repairs and things like that, and so now that's when we engaged Mike a number of years ago, and so the only one really, you had the county engineer that kind of was on his own, but I think we've got Mike working on that, and now Conservation Board kind of does their own thing, and I think that I think it's a good plan to look at their facilities, know what their facilities are, catalog, what's the age, what's the condition, and are they in proper working order, so we have good, safe, reliable facilities for all of our offered options. And I, you know, I mean, typically, you know, close your ears, Mike's done it at a pretty reasonable rate for us. It hasn't really cost us a ton of money, and I say personally, we've gotten tremendous value out of having an architect. Cause if you recall, somebody that had worked maybe on the board, one of the problems we originally had was we would never get bidders on projects because we didn't have them fully specified always. And so it was a real challenge for us. And particularly, we didn't get any local contractors in so the only time we'd ever get any bidders were on our major projects, and we'd get all the contractors from the Quad Cities or Iowa City and stuff. And I think we've had a good blend of contractors since Mike's been engaged. We've had some locals that get more shots at the business as well. It's still all competitively bid, but when you have a set of plans and specifications, it's made a big difference for our ability to attract contractors to do that, so.
On your services that you already provided this year, have you already received some payments that we budgeted for? I don't recall. And is these fees these fee proposal on the back, was that part of that process, or these are additional?
This would be in addition to,
So this is outside of the
So we have
budgeted amount
we have
already?
like a master agreement, right? That we engage, so there's basically an hourly rate, so like if Oscar or Nancy has something come up short term that we really need to get done, that they can engage Mike's services, and that's all covered under that master agreement. But in the master agreement, it says if we have identified specific projects that we wanna look at, then we'll do an additional service agreement on that. And that's what this would be, right? Cause we have these couple of things that we really wanna look at.
well, and one of the things we had Mike doing was, figuring out if we could rearrange this building, to better accommodate traffic flow. We've run into a number of challenges with that, and then the concept of this additional building came up. And this would authorize Mike and his group to evaluate that other building, versus this building, and figure out how that might all work. So that adds some space. And we have done the space needed evaluations for some of the stuff and not for the other stuff. And as we talked about this, we thought it would be nice to just have that for everybody, for all of our county departments, all of the spaces we use, so that in the future, if we were evaluating the need to move or need to expand, we'd have some good numbers to work with.
So if I'm understanding these additional fee proposal, we're looking at an additional 29,000, is that correct?
No, so this would, so the original agreements were on a time and materials not to exceed on an hourly basis. So we got basically to that threshold, and more or less what we got to was an initial inquiries. We just said, well, here's what we set out to look at, but as we were starting to look at these things, we found these other things we feel like would very much be of interest. So what we're doing with this is we're adding for the, just without the conservation would be a total lump sum of 12,000. So at this point, we're also willing to say, we know exactly what we're going to get from to complete our inquiry. So we're going to take that on as not as an hourly thing. We're just, to get that through. So this will be basically from this point, that gets us to the end of the master plan. And then for the engineering, what we were kind of proposing to do is we started to say, okay, we're going to go design a building. But what we want to do is take a step back and say, why don't we look at the entire campus and see what makes sense for the long term, do that in schematic design. And I feel like from that, we're probably right about the spot where we can then take that same building. So it's just taking the fee that's already been contracted for with the county and using it slightly differently, expanding the scope of that a little bit.
So it would be $12,000 if you,
Additional 12,000 is all we're looking for.
the additional 12,000 if you don't add on the conservation one. If you add on the conservation one, then it would be a total of 17,000.
Okay. And if this is outside of our money that we budgeted, where again would what fund would this come from?
It would probably come from capital projects. I mean, we have funds in capital projects that aren't designated for anything right now, so this could be covered out of there.
That was kind of the original intention with doing all this, is that we'd always have, we'd fund that through the capital process, that we'd keep that in, minor amounts of effort like this so you can do the work and get it to a specification stage.
So if we agree to this 17,000, this should get us to the final.
Yeah, this will take us all the way through, then the next thing we'll do is from a process standpoint, we would do a draft of the entire master plan, kind of talk about what we see in our findings, get a chance to review, and then we would do a wrap up of that, but this would take us all the way through that final master plan on your desk.
So that master plan is that would be that's the document, would that be, are we thinking this would be updated kind of in the budget timeframe? Because we'll talk about this kind of mid-January, is that?
We'll see how far we get. We talked through some
He's gonna
priorities
try.
for sure. I can't promise that the whole master plan will be done in time for that, but we're gonna do our best to get through at least some rough ideas.
Because that master plan is what we use when we do our forward capital planning, as we have our capital dollars. We use that, because then it identifies, you know, what Oscar sees as building needs, or wherever we are, you know, if we got a roof coming or a chiller or whatever, so then we can plan forward and say, oh, we've got, Michael give us an estimate of life and stuff, so we know when we have to deal with those things, so we don't have emergency expenditures to deal with.
So I would
And
say,
so-
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, so you probably won't have it for this year's, but we still have the results of the last master plan that we'll go off of. And we've pretty much had that in good shape, I think.
I think what we identified when we met last week is there are some things that we can, I say right now from what we've done for our facility analysis, that we're gonna give some projects, say these just need to have attention no matter what goes here. What like a major capital project may not necessarily be, you know, if we say do this X, Y, or Z, that may be later into the time frame. But those also are probably things that would not be necessarily a one-year process. So expect to see some major, I would say, major maintenance capital projects. Recommendations come from us here before the end of the year, but the entire master plan, I don't want to set the expectation we'll have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where's everybody I think that it would be good to get the, you know, it's kinda like the road plan, I like a plan, I like a look in the future, so I'd like to see that, even though we're not responsible for conservation board funding, at least we would understand the needs they have, you know, cause I know last year, you know, we took some surplus funds we had and gave them to the conservation board to help with some additional paving, some things, cause we knew they're gonna be in a transition. And I think those are always, you know, if the board's aware of those kind of opportunities, cause you know, you can get things, well, I doubt we'll get ARPA funds or things again, but those are the kinds of things that if they become available, you can think about where the county taxpayer may get the best benefit out of it.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking, and I'm kind of trying to get up to speed on this, is if this is money outside of what we budgeted last year for this plan, and we're so close to the next budget session, is it more appropriate to approve these funds then than outside of, I mean, is it time pressing that we need to do it now?
Well, most of the money is around to look at basically this building, right, which, cause we had set aside some ARPA funds to do for the auditor's office, right? And that drove, well, wait a minute, we're gonna spend $150,000 there, or whatever the number was. Maybe we really need to look at, cause that was, quite frankly, looking a lot like a Band-Aid up there. And so then we said, well, let's step back and have Mike take a look at reprogramming this building, and you worked probably months on that, and it looks like the challenge is set aside, so it's kind of a half budgeted, or have we exhausted all the funds on that project, or?
Which one?
The master plan
The look
update.
at, for what we were doing with this building.
No, we still have some, you have a charge for the administration building.
I had to go back and look. I know we were close on threshold, so
Okay,
I think we were at the point where with the other questions that came into it, there wasn't enough on that time and materials basis to do it, so.
And we are now asking for a pretty in-depth analysis of another building, so. That's
Well-
part of what's driving some of this cost.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, the services that are provided by various departments here, some are transitioning, as with the early voter situation, I mean, that's going to do nothing more but get larger. That volume's gonna do nothing but get larger. And our current situation, current status, with what we have to work with, the tool that we currently have to work with doesn't work very well. And it's only going to get worse. And so I think we have to look at, this building as well as potentially other options for a best practice situation. And so I think it's a good idea to work forward on this, especially when you're looking at a
Well,
president.
we're what, 6 months from a primary?
Yeah.
And then we're 12, well,
It's gonna be a big
11
one.
months- 11 months from
From a
a
presidential.
general election, which will be massive.
Large.
Ginormous. So if we're gonna get anything done, we gotta do it.
You know,
Yeah, that would be my biggest fear. I agree with you, that, you know, and then it's even a question if we can do anything substantive, can we do it in that time frame anyway? Or are we gonna, do
Yeah,
we
but-
need to be?
By the time we got the master plan, it's probably unlikely we'd have anything done before that
Well,
November
the
election.
time that we could even evaluate another space, you know, the question is, and maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe that's, you know, just thinking through it right now, maybe we need to try to think through what we might do for the next general election, because it's not, I mean, cause I think the last one I remember where we just had crazy lines, that wasn't even a general, that was an off year, wasn't a presidential year, right?
It was presidential.
Was it a
2020.
presidential? Yeah, 2020, and that was,
Rough.
it was.
Oh, we had lines
Yep.
from the auditor's office all the way down the hallway, turn all the way down the stairs, bunched up by the front door, and then we actually started queuing them in here. So they came in here to be in line.
Yeah, and even the layout, I was a little bit concerned how you maintain voter privacy in that whole thing. So that's another concern that we, you know, I think we all should share. So how are we gonna, cause we're gonna have to deal with it again.
I think one of the things we talked about is that we need to understand that process, and we've worked with the auditors to start looking at options for that space. So it may be that there is a temporary, even if there's a longer term solution, that we need to do something in short order to get that addressed. So that's one of the things, is understanding that process as we evaluate new facilities. As Scott said, what is that best case condition that we can work for, so.
Yeah.
everything takes longer than what one thinks it will, especially in government. And I think we have a consensus in the room that it's a positive move forward, I believe, from what I can hear. When we're talking timeframes and dollars is what I believe is what the talking point is.
Right, it's just a matter of when and where
Yeah.
we find it.
And with that, you know, I would be of the thought process of moving forward at one's earliest convenience.
Yeah, I think just in light of what we have coming, I think time is really the biggest issue I see. I don't think the dollars, I mean, from what I see, I don't know, we haven't seen any budget amendments yet, but we'll be doing that probably in what?
March, aren't we doing that in March? Yeah.
And we'll probably see, I mean, I'm guessing we've have some upticks in some areas on the budget that we hadn't anticipated.
I think we're actually doing pretty good, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everything I can see would indicate
There's
that,
a few little things that I know of, but
That'd be very minor.
yeah.
And we have the funding in capital projects that you wouldn't have to do an amendment here if you wanted to proceed with this today.
Okay. All right. So I would make a motion that we authorize Mike to move ahead with the master plan update, including the county conservation.
I got a motion by Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Very good.
Quick update on a couple other things we've got in process is 2 projects over at the jail. One for some small access panels, and then the other for insulated metal panels on the exterior. We discussed that, we're getting close to having that wrapped up, so we expect to see me in mid-January to talk to those projects and hopefully get those released for bidding. So those things will be happening yet.
they took action this
We
morning.
took action
Set
on
the
a couple
public
of-
hearings for both of those, so.
We got them
All right, man.
on the
Yeah.
list.
All right.
Thank you much.
Very
Appreciate your
good.
time.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Mike, have we had any, the city, we haven't had any code or any kind of complaints on the access, on the structural panels? We got no feedback on that? They don't have anything, they didn't have any concerns on the change of facades, we're not gonna anticipating any issues?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't think it's been, I mean, we heard no comment back with the initial, the last round when we did the booking expansion, so I don't anticipate there being any
I
challenge.
hadn't heard anybody, and I mean, it's a different look from the brick facade to this, and I haven't heard anything from any taxpayer saying one way or another, and we still think that we've gotten, Oscar just left, but we've gotten good thermal performance
It has
out of that.
helped.
It's made a big difference in the jail and the comfort and taking pressure off our geothermal system.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things.
Okay.
So, okay, very good. There's no other business to come before the board. It is 9:46, and we are adjourned.